Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Quantum Bridge with myself, Casper, my cat, who appears to be very invasive today, which is, let's say that's a good thing, and with my co host, Gary, as always. And today we're very, very lucky and very pleased as well to be joined by a new guest. And I'll pass over to Gary for introductions.
Yes, well, I'd like to welcome Brad Johnson to the show. Welcome, Brad, from New Earth Teachers. How are you today? Are you keeping well?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's good to see you guys with cats. Like I said, my cat's asleep, so I don't have him on my lap.
Missing
Next time,
out.
Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're almost a full house today. But yes, so I'm familiar with yourself, Brad, back from I think your first show with Janine. There we go. So it's a little while ago now, I imagine. Um, that's how I came familiar with your work.
Mhm.
But maybe for the audience, you could tell us a little bit of your background, how you got involved in this. I know it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Were there
Yes.
any sort of specific moments that led to where you're at now with the spiritual work that you're doing?
Yeah, like I'll try to keep it as an elevator version because it's
Hmm.
quite vast. So basically what I would tell everybody is you can just go onto my website. It's newearthteachings.com. And my whole story is there because you can read it. It's quite a fascinating story, but like I said, I'm doing my best to try to keep it very short because we
Yeah.
only have a certain amount of time. But yeah, basically it started in 2008. I was a novelist and I wanted to write a book about the extraterrestrial presence. And I did a lot of research online, started talking to psychics, intuitives, channels, Black Ops community personnel. And they're all basically telling me about certain beings that they are in contact with and how many of them are very highly evolved and that they're human, very much like this, like us, a lot of them, and how they believe in a one infinite creator and how they want to help us in our own state of personal evolution and spiritual evolution. I thought this was fantastic because I never had that impression of ETs being like that.
Hmm.
So, they would always talk about going into meditation and going into these deeper states of being to connect with these types of beings. And I thought that was very fascinating. So I decided to put the novel aside and just started getting much more into meditation because I'd never done meditation before that time, before 2008. So I went into my library, took out a book called Learn How to Meditate. I read it from front cover to back cover within a matter of days, did a lot of the exercises with it. And I guess when reflecting on it right now, it's kind of like a higher version of oneself leaves this kind of imprint for the lower self to go in and start retrieving memories, start retrieving a lot of information. Because that's basically what happened to me when I started going into these deeper states. I would go into these astral spaces. I'd start walking around and I'd see like these floating crystal balls and I'd start touching them. And as I touched them astrally, my physical body would respond at the same time. So I'd be feeling like jolts. I'd be feeling almost like subtle waves of electricity coming through me. And doing these exercises, going to sleep at night, I would just wake up knowing things I didn't know before. So I'd start looking a lot more about universal mechanics. I'd start looking a lot more into the nature of the universe, the nature of things, right? So many different aspects of myself were coming together. And this was bringing me more into going into channeling as well, too. So through meditation came channeling, through channeling came healing, through healing came remote viewing, through remote viewing came looking into magic, through coming looking into magic, looking into astrology, looking into ancient sciences, looking into ancient metaphysics. It just continued. It was like an unfolding fan, right? Just everything started to expand greatly. So from that point on, I started to connect a lot more deeper into channeling. That was going into about December of 2008, and I connected with a being known as Adronis. And basically, he was introduced to me, or basically talked to me about through a friend of mine who was also a channel. He said, "Well, Brad, you have a strong connection with the star of Sirius, and I feel like there is a being there that's looking to get in touch with you." He basically contacted me to tell you that. And so I went into my own channeling state. I brought him through, and that is when I met Adronis. And basically, he said, "Well, I'm a future version of you, 297 years in the future. I've come back at this time to assist you in your own personal evolution. And as you personally evolve, you will be taking others along this journey to personally evolve together with you. Is this something that you want to do?" So there's basically it's a contractual agreement in a certain way, right, for me to connect with Adronis, and I've been connecting with him since December of 2008. And through all that, I've had all kinds of incredible experiences with him. His knowledge is incredibly vast, and I've had people who I've talked to just all over the world. I'd say well over 20,000, 30,000 clients I've really had over the past 15 years, working individually and working in large groups as well too. And he has come through and he's given personal information for people as well too. He's looked into people, given them messages that have been extremely profound. Whether that those people continue to follow those messages is up to them, but nonetheless, there's been some really profound information that has come through him, and I'm still communicating with him to this day. I took a bit of a break for a little while, but I mainly brought him back was because many people were very interested in communicating with him still, and I bring him in mainly for the sake of others, not so much for myself. But for those past near 15 years, that is really what I've been doing, is connecting with people, helping them out, while I'm also helping myself out as well too. So a lot of change has happened throughout those 15 years. It has led into, again, a new company that I'm developing called Etherics, right? About what we're doing here is one of a kind. So again, it's I'm very thankful for the entire journey that I've had, and it's continuing to prosper even to this day.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing. Can I just jump in for a couple of things, Terry? Yeah. Brad, I'm because all of us are at some level within these, if you think of time as being linear at least. But anyway, putting that to one side for a moment, all of us are at some aspects of these journeys, and maybe different centers within ourselves even are moving at different paces and so on. I'm keen to understand that when you were beginning what feels like a very sort of autodidactic way of sort of educating yourself by finding all of those, or being guided maybe to all of those different sources of material and information and so on. From the outset, were you always very open to going on this sort of inner journey as much as an external journey, or did something happen? Was there sort of a crescendo moment or something that happened that made you more predisposed to go on this type of sort of self-development journey?
It was completely by impulse. It was everything that was really by impulse. Like really before me wanting to start this novel and everything, I had no interest in the psychic field. I had no interest in spirituality. I had no interest in meditation. I had no interest in this stuff whatsoever. It was never in my plans. It was never in anything that I had tried to prepare for myself. Really what I was doing a lot of marketing work. I was getting into video game design and all that stuff, building computers, PC tech support, website design, web development, right? That really was my work that I was doing prior to doing all of this. And I was starting to get much more into YouTube and making videos and so forth. And then this came along and everything changed. Everything. It was a complete 180-degree turn of everything that I stood for, everything that I want. But I also knew it was a missing component of myself that I've really wanted, and I really just couldn't put it into words. There was something missing in my life, and this is exactly what was the answer, was being able to do this. And when I started getting into it, I said, this is all I care about. This is really what matters the most to me, is just doing all of this work, is connecting with the universe. And so I always had those when I was a kid. I'd like go into my library at school and I take out books on astronomy, right? And I just start looking at the stars and it's like, I'm familiar with these. I think I know these places, right? And I couldn't never put my finger on it. But again, it's kind of like your subconscious is talking. So you know these places, these are stars you visited, right? So that was something that I was always so fascinated by when people were talking about astronomy or the stars or the galaxy, the universe, right? It always excited me. And I could never really know why. I just thought, oh, okay, it's just something that's cool. I was like, no, it's there's something with a lot more depth there. But no, this was never on my plan. But once it came to me, it was, to say that this was an obsession was an understatement. It's all I cared about. It's all I talked about. It's all I did. Basically, in the best way I could put it, was more important to me than family was. Right. So this is basically when I walked this path. Basically, I lost everything. Everything of mine was lost. Family was basically thinking that I was crazy, and I wasn't able to really interact with them. Basically, went through a separation with an ex-partner. Really couldn't see my kids as well too, because everything was gone. Like basically, it's kind of like why I tell people, like, not a single stone is left unturned. Well, everything with my life up until that point, every stone was being turned. right? Everything was just plummeting. Friendships were going away, family was going away, old job was going away, old house was going away. Everything that represented my own life, you could say, was basically sacrificed. I basically gave up absolutely everything to do this work because this means more to me than anything. And of course, that was my attitude at the time. And right now I'm making a new family, right? So it's a family who is much more in alignment to that. And that's wonderful to me. But the whole idea just to follow this work and continue to expand, there's nothing greater that I love in doing this. So I basically have given my entire heart and soul to this work. And this is what I keep telling people. You got to do the same, right? Hopefully it doesn't have to involve sacrificing everything, but that is exactly what I do. Everything was sacrificed. The work I was doing, the money I had in the bank, everything. I went from complete and total broke to now starting to redo everything. And the money that I made all came from the support with the work I was doing. But that was always number 2 on the list. Number 1 was just doing absolutely everything that I loved, and still doing it to this day.
Yeah, amazing. Just in terms of that, normally, this aspect of things going, I like the fact that you use the 180-degree thing, because I do feel that if you look at the external world, we're in a world where it does feel like it is very inverted, and that hopefully at some point there will become this tipping point where the external world hopefully mirrors a lot more of those that we probably resonate with more. Certainly Gary and myself, I don't want to speak on your behalf, Brad, but that thing that, again, of sort of coming full circle, have you been able to, or are you beginning to pick up on those older relationships in a new form because you've gone through that sort of pupa stage and are now coming into this butterfly or whatever analogy?
The people that I used to know, no, completely gone from my life altogether. Because basically I would say that if they changed as well too, if they followed a spiritual path like I did, then they'd probably still be here with me. But they did. None of them were of the inner, getting to know the inner self, or basically following the heart. I don't want to say a spiritual path, but basically just following the heart path. They weren't doing that. Right now, it was all about the idea of them making money. It was all about them going into the grind. It was all about their 9 to 5. It was all about following the status quo. And I really was getting out of that and just basically starting to look into this whole new world and realizing, again, God within yourself. And that's really what it is. I certainly was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, but I never cared for the religion at all, right? I was basically born into it and left it when I was a teenager and never wanted to look back at it because I couldn't stand it. So I left all that, and I wasn't considering myself an atheist. I said, yeah, God certainly is here, but I didn't want to represent God in the way that religions represented God. So I just stepped away from all that and didn't look back, and I just started doing work. And again, one thing led to another, and this led to the grand awakening of myself, which was the 2008 year. And since then, life has been so much greater. A lot of who I was prior to 2008 doesn't even exist anymore. That old Brad is dead, basically. So there's this new Brad here, and it's all about the inner work that I'm doing, helping humanity in the best way that I can, right? It's not going to be all 8 billion people, just the people that are drawn to me in that way. So that is where Etherics comes in and the Earth Teachings comes in. My YouTube channel. Yeah, when I've talked to Janine as well too. Like, I've been doing interviews for a very long time, and Janine has basically been the one that's been come up the most. So, Brad, I seen you with Janine. I'm getting people like locally here saying the same thing. Brad, hey, I saw you with Janine, and like, I'm glad you guys are all big Janine fans. That's great, because I'm going to be talking to her again in January. But I've done a lot of other interviews besides her, but she certainly is the one that keeps on giving, I would say.
Gary, sorry I've monopolized, please.
No, it's fine. I'm just wondering there how you're feeling about things now, where there's a lot more, we've had this sort of awakening amongst more in the collective. How, for someone like yourself that, had that earlier, like you say, you would have noticed that change maybe there's a lot more people coming to you now. Is that something?
Oh, yes, there's a lot more people coming to me now than there ever has been. So people are realizing, like I said, it's just the states of the world of how people are awakening. They're realizing the government has never been honest with them. They're realizing their job really goes nowhere. They're just realizing all the stuff that they've been doing in life has been very empty. And they want to go through a lot more, and they want to move into something that has much more meaning for them. And so this is where I help them out. I said, well, the first thing to do is you have to let go of trying to live in your past. And you need to let go of what you would consider to be the hypothetical future you. right? So everything of the future that is hypothetical, everything of the past that pertains to memory, all of that needs to be brought into peace. Everything needs to be lightened up. As we start to lighten that up and soften that, and you learn to let go of these things, you're going to see a much more grounded world. The only reason why we can't see a grounded world is because we're putting all these veils around ourselves. We have all of these curtains hanging around and saying, oh, I have to work, I have to do this, I have to do the 9 to 5, I have to follow the government, I have to do this. And this is everything that I have pertaining to my life. And, you know, regarding the whole thing of the world has to be the world. The world is going to change the world, right? You are not going to change 8 billion people. You are not going to change the governments of the world. You have to let the world go with the flow as it needs to. That's the collective. What's most important is getting to know yourself, because the only world you've ever experienced has been your own. You've never experienced a collective world. You've never been able to see through 8 billion people's eyes, right? You've only been able to see through these 2 eyes. And so the whole idea is know that you are able to work within your world. Let's make your world great. Let's make your world grand. Let's start bringing peace into all of these things that have been happening. Let's start healing the body. Let's start healing the mind. Let's start seeing yourself, turn yourself around just like I had to, so that you're seeing a much more grander world ahead. Everybody can do this, right? It's just, there's nothing special about what I'm doing. It's just the idea that commitment has made me do what I do. And if commitment is allowing you to do this work, you're gonna be expanding something, experiencing something with such great expansion. Words can't do it, right? You're really going all the way back to God again. That's the most beautiful thing about this.
Did you find it sort of weird that you were doing maybe work with individuals and their personal developments, and then you're doing readings on world events and politics? That sort of the shift in that way that, you know,
Yeah.
I basically see that come in, or it's like just weird?
Yeah, well, I went where the current was taking me, right?
Yeah.
So basically what I was trying to do is I was going into politics to take people out of politics.
Yes, that's what I
I was
quite like
going
about your
into
shows.
current events, yeah, to take people out of current events. And for some, that happens, right? There are some people in that sense who just don't even want to follow that anymore, and they do want to work on more of their own inner being. Great, then I've done what I've come to do, right? But no, I would go into those arenas just because the whole idea is, oh, I don't want to follow this. I don't consider myself a truther or anything of that nature. It's just the idea in that sense that you get involved with that because you got to shine a torch in that space, because there's a lot of people that are just fighting each other, wanting to know what the truth is. I said, you're not going to find the truth through this forum. This is why I'm coming into this forum. It's saying the only truth that you have is within. This is why I've had some people who are disgruntled with me. It's like, oh, Brad, you need to talk about current events. I need to talk about your spirituality. You need to talk about going in the heart and learning to expand yourself. And I was like, just stick with current events. I said, no, that's not what I'm here to do, right? I'm here to basically take you in here so that I can help to take you out of it, right? So that's basically what you would call just being a torchbearer. And that's really what I've done. And I still do talk about current events, and there's still certain things that I do discuss. But then I also tell people as I turn it around and say, okay, well, this is what's happening, guys, and here's what you can personally do to move past all of that, right? So yes, I still follow that in that way. So there's been times where I basically touch all facets, right? There's nothing that I really don't touch. If I'm being guided into following a particular discussion, then I'll get involved with that discussion, and I'll basically talk about its illusionary nature and how it doesn't really matter, and helping yourself come back to you again. That's really what I'm here to do.
Brad, can I just jump in quickly? Just is really for my own personal edification. I always like this sense from you that there are a lot of probably mystic traditions or Eastern traditions that have meant something to you. Obviously, the background there at the moment might resonate with that, but you might tell me, actually, I'm completely wrong in that. And then you've got this Adronis and this sort of other world and future you aspect. In terms of teachers, other than, you know, going through your heart, which you might say ultimately that's the only teacher any of us really need, is the inward journey. Have there been any sort of major movements or sort of types of teaching that have particularly affected you during this journey, or still doing that? Or has this now again gone another sort of 180 degrees and it is all just inner work that's just authentic inner work as part of your sort of authentic being? I'd just love to know whether there are still things that have influenced you, or whether when you're looking and reflecting on that now, whether or not actually it's all just you.
Yeah, well, the answer is both, So really the whole idea is that I get guided to look at certain teachers, right? Like I'll look into Jesus, so everything that Jesus did. I'll look into Buddha, everything that Buddha did. I'll look into Lao Tzu, everything that Lao Tzu did. I'll look into Mahavatar Babaji. I'll look into Ramana Maharshi. I'll look into Paramahansa Yogananda, right? I'll look into a lot of these great saints, you could say, great teachers in that sense, because that's the important thing. You want to learn from the people who paved the path before you, right? And I think that's an important thing. There's times too where I just basically would get the flow and I'd get a lot of intuition and I'd share a lot of that information, but I never excluded the work of the great masters. Because like I said, so many of them have paved the path way before we did, and you want to be familiar with that. And so there's times too where I've talked to some of them in the astral, talking to Jesus, talking to Buddha, talking to Ramana Maharshi, talking to Yogananda and all that, and being able to chat us. And they don't really need to talk anything. Their smile says it all, right? And that's really where a lot of our conversations have come through, is just through the nature of love. So yes, I have certainly talked with the masters, and I honor those masters as well too, because when you start looking at the masters who basically almost everybody follows, like so many people are familiar with Jesus and so many people are familiar with Buddha, and then they get stuck in their web again. And I said, do you remember what Buddha said? Do you remember what Jesus said about this and about that? And then it just helps them to click out again, right? So even when I bring Adronis in, like he'll mention that as well too. He'll talk a lot about what Jesus says or what Buddha says or what Marna Maharshi may say, or something of that nature. But yes, I have looked into quite a few things. Like I've even studied Kriya Yoga as well too. I've studied Qigong. I've looked into Taoist practices as well too. So I have certainly looked into a lot of the ancient things. That's just part of my growth as well too, because I get guided into it. Brad, look into this. Look into what Kriya Yoga does. Look what into Qigong does. Look what happens through Taoist philosophy, right? And looking into all these things and helping you to kind of expand yourself a little bit more. And I do. And then I start looking into that, and then new things start coming together through intuition. So it has been very much a hard path. Like I do not have a direct teacher at all, right? A lot of the teaching has been through Adronis. He would be the closest one that I could refer to as a teacher of mine. But I have looked into a lot of the ancient masters, even the masters that have been somewhat modern day as well too, like again Ramana Maharshi and Yogananda. Again, I've worked with them as well too. There's another being known as Ramtha, right? He was also helped me with my own Kundalini awakening. So there's certain things like that, and sometimes they just pop in, and sometimes I just get the flow. It's okay, just start looking into this now, and I do. And so I feel like I'm kind of walking together with the brotherhood and the sisterhood there. And at times I will be drawn to what they share and incorporating it in my own way, because I never really just verbatim take out something that somebody's doing. I look at what somebody's doing and I say, okay, let's trim the fat. Let's trim the fat. And I discover the core and I mix it together with my own core. I always come up with my own work. And it's never the idea where I'm just taking somebody else's idea and running with it.
It sounds very much to have a resonance with Bruce Lee's whole edict of sort of disregarding the superfluous and keeping what is uniquely your own.
Mm-hmm. That's it. You want your authenticity to speak for itself, because that's the only thing that remains when everything else is stripped off.
Yeah. Great. Gary, did you want to touch on, because Brad sort of alluded, well, he has mentioned being sort of a torchbearer, and given that we recently saw some of Brad's products that involved a torch that we both liked, maybe we should segue into Etherics a bit, if Brad doesn't mind. And your cat's come.
Yeah, well, she's settling down at least. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously been a busy year for you. I mean, that's just from us looking from the outside. I mean, I think you didn't. Did you come? You came to England as well, didn't you? Was it this?
Yes, I did. I came last summer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Did you enjoy it?
Oh, it was great. We actually went into crop circles. We were able to explore crop circles together. In fact, some of the products that I have on Etherics have crop circle energy imbued into it. And there was one person on the tour as well too. When he picked up a crystal stone inside the crop circle, his eyes were 20/20 vision perfect. So he was actually able to completely recover his eyesight by being in the presence of the crop circle. And so this again is what I was finding out was just taking these stones, and I had the ability to basically capture the vibration of something and put it into an object. And so that's what I was doing. So I was basically working to imbue everybody's jewelry that they had on hand, and I put crop circle energy directly into it. So Etherics has been really just something that's been in the making for a few years. It started off with the healing code cards, which are now referred to as the Etherics card decks, and then it evolved into something much greater. And I'm even getting even better ideas right now as well too, because I'm now starting to get into electronics, right? So working with a flashlight, working with a laser pen. I have a massage mat that I'm just starting to work with right now too. That's going to basically radiate the source center vibration through it as well too. So this is basically taking electronics and digital technology and amping it up to the point where its power is so phenomenal, you can basically rejuvenate your body very quickly.
Mm.
So
Would this come under, because obviously we are.
There's basically static objects like I've had, like crystals, socks as well too, so forth. So I've had some static objects, and they've done really well as well too. They're a great help. Of course, the Taurus bed kits I do, they also are a great help. But when you have electronics and you're actually working with light, that light has so much energy in it that when you start shining the source center vibration, that power stays with you, and that rejuvenates the body really quickly.
The thing I was going to say is about the light technology and the laser technology is when I've seen you working with that, it's the fact that you can pinpoint, with these other things they may be working on. Of course, I'm sure you can request in some way, on some level, the activation to happen in a certain area and so on. But with these things, it's very visible that you could work in a certain field or a certain way.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Like I said, with the flashlights, I've already gotten people emailing me about all the things that they've been able to cure within themselves. Like I said, with the Etherics, I don't make any medical claims or anything like that. It is not a medical technology. It's a spirit light. It's a spirit technology, right? It's living spiritual technology. And basically these codes that make the light what it is or make the bed what it is in that sense are all imbued through the simple images that are contained inside the particular product in question. So all those codes are in there. And this is something that I've been working with for the past 15 years of my life, is being able to imbue certain codes of the divine, you could say, directly into these logos, into these images, and then being able to have the ability for the person to activate it, and then just being able to lay in a bed, for example, wake up the next morning and they feel like they're lighter than air. So that this is things that have happened. So that's really what Etherics is all about, is it's taking, basically we could say, technology that is meant to be in the future, here and now, right? Because you're looking at something that's in that way. It's also the ancient technology. It's what Atlanteans have had. It's what Egyptians have had as well too, right? They've had a lot of this technology that was imbued. You could say it's consecrated in a certain way, but I don't really prefer to use it that way. It's the idea in that sense that you're basically using the word of spirit and you're applying it directly into it. And that particular command has power, and that power in that sense radiates through that entire object. And then you're utilizing that particular object in all the ways that it can to assist in rejuvenating the body and the mind altogether. And there's no other company on the planet that is doing what Etherics is doing. So my goal is just to, I wouldn't say not looking to get mainstream, but basically still kind of staying in the grassroots and just helping a lot more people be aware of this, because mainstream just honestly is not ready for this type of technology yet. So I'm still going to probably be keeping it in the alternative stream probably for as long as I live, I guess you could say.
Just to say that on the things that we're speaking to Brad about on ways to engage with his material, and obviously to look at the Etherics product, we will put information in our sort of show more, the details section, so people can look at that and click through. One question I did have, Brad, and I'm sure we're running out of time, so just very quickly if we can, because we're called the Quantum Bridge, I just wonder if that sort of source center vibrations and the codes that you're talking about, would they collectively come under the sort of umbrella of a quantum technology? How would you frame them?
Well, so I wouldn't refer to it as a quantum technology, because I know a lot of people are crazy about the quantum.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Dolores Cannon, she talks about quantum hope, hypnosis healing technique. That's all great. This is etheric technology. That's what this is all about. So this is why I call the company Etherics.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're looking into the nature of the ether, right? So you're basically getting it directly from the ether. So it's kind of like as above, so below, as below, so above. And there's a meeting point in the middle. And that's really what the Etherics technology is all about. We're at the center to where all of the divine is integrated into a material object. So you're bringing everything of the higher and the lower together. And then you're getting the center quality representing the source center vibration. So the source center vibration is in every living thing. It's in every molecule, it's in every cell, it's in every atom. And basically that's what we're awakening. We're awakening that center within every single person. And it's such a silent and subtle and quiet thing. and you just don't know that's being activated until you know that your body actually starts feeling different. Right? Some of us are quite sensitive and we may start to feel it, but a lot of people who come to me just basically, oh, Brad, I just don't know if I can feel anything. But I say, well, that bad toe that you had a couple days ago, is it still there? Oh, no, wait, it's gone, right? So they just don't realize that these things are actually healing, even if you feel it or if you don't feel it. But nonetheless, especially with the light technology, working with light, you feel it. Because if you had, like I had like a sprained finger from a sporting event, and I started shining the light on it, and 2 minutes later, the entire pain was gone. It was phenomenal. So again, that's what we call the source flashlights, right? There's also a source laser pen as well too. There's the Taurus bed kit. There's the healing code cards, which we now call the Etherics card decks. There's accessories. There's crystals. There's all kinds of different things that are on the Etherics website. And there's also video tutorials for every single thing. I'm still uploading quite a few video tutorials right now, but when you go to the product page, you'll see a video there talking about, with me talking about how this product works and how it can help you.
I think it's really nice to have that background on you and as to the genesis of all of this, and that this hasn't just sprung up, so to speak, that this is sort of the collective knowledge, intuitive wisdom, those other aspects that have worked on you coming and culminating in something that you believe in and can put out into the world to make a significant change. So
it's definitely been years in the making. So it hasn't something that's been sprung overnight. It's really taken years for me to get to this point so that I can do this to actual technology, because it's just the idea that you're imbuing technology that again helps to replenish the body, right? Like I said, it's not a medical technology, it's a living spiritual technology, and it's experimental, right? So I don't give any claims about what it will do for you. I say, okay, you got the gadget, start using it, see what it does for you, for yourself, experiment with it, be your own researcher. And that's what I encourage every customer who buys it. They do that.
I think it's fantastic, really, to see your own journey, but also the collective and the way the world's moving and shifting, and that these types of products, when people say, "Well, nothing's happening," it's like there's loads of things happening. All this stuff is coming, for us to use, and even like you say, to experiment and try things out. So it's great to see. But as per usual on here, we are running out of time. So we're going to thank you, Brad, for joining us today and letting us know all about your history and the products you're doing. I would recommend people watch the channel. I mean, there's untold information there.
Yeah,
regular shows with the signposts and the Q&As, which I really enjoy, because like you say, it does take you, it pulls you in with that intel stuff, and then it takes you away into things, and just expands your consciousness in amazing ways, I found. So
that's my strategy. Great, thank you for having me on, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. Bye from the Quantum Bridge.